The lower notes just not working with me this morning. Welcome
to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I'm joined by my wonderful co-host,
ThatDarnKitteh.
Kitty and I are both going into this story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way. This is Mistborn Abridged, a blind read-through, and today we will be covering Chapter
12!
Yeah! The ball has arrived. Okay, whoopsie. Spoilers, no.
Okay, now...
First it's epigraph. Wait,
first
okay.
thing, even before all that,
okay.
Are you familiar with Les Mis, Kitteh?
Not very, no.
Not
I know what people are referring to when they say that. I mean...
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I am very familiar with Les Mis. Well,
really?
At least I used to. I used to be very familiar. I've read the book, and I was in the musical many times, and I played many roles in it.
Sweet.
And I just have to say, and it's totally not connected to this chapter whatsoever, I hate Marius.
Okay. I'm so sorry that I don't know the reference.
I see. Well,
will you explain it? Do you want to explain it, or would you like it to be...
Look, I won't explain it. I will not explain it right now because despite what I said earlier, this is supposed to be a joke about what happens in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So I will clear it up for you later, likely at the end of the chapter.
Okay.
What I mean when I say that I hate Marius.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to know. I have such FOMO.
Okay, no, look, I'll just...
No, don't tell me. I like the suspense, okay?
Okay.
I mean, I like it, and I'm complaining about it at the same time.
Sure.
I'm such a woman.
And we learn in this chapter that Vin is such a woman too. So that's
right?
Nice. That's good for her. There was a lot of that going on.
There was a lot of... Yes, I was very fascinated with Vin's antics.
Yeah. And I will say there was one thing, and I'll point it out when we get there, that really angered me in this chapter. And it's not the Marius thing, but it's a nitpick, but it angered me. And then there was one thing that I was very, not confused, quizzical, I suppose, about, which we will get to when we get to it. But overall, a neat chapter, very enjoyable, lots of great Vin work. What do you have to say, Kitty?
Yes, a lot of great Vin work. I wonder what I'm excited to see what your nitpick is, because I think I did have nitpicks, but they didn't anger me. So it will be interesting to see if they are different. Yes. Let us explore. Sorry, I was looking away from the mark when I said that. Let us explore.
Epigraph time, yes?
Let's go.
What would it be like if every nation, from the Isles in the south to the Terrace Hills in the north, were united under a single government? What wonders could be achieved? What progress could be made if mankind were to permanently set aside its squabblings and join together? It is too much, I suppose, to even hope for a single unified empire of man. It could never happen.
Yeah, I don't think it could ever happen. But I mean, he made it happen.
Indeed.
But also, how do you make one unified empire? Fascism.
That is certainly a way.
Yeah, that's how we get. How can we all get along? Well, we can all get along if there's one person that watches over us all the time.
World peace when only one man exists, or woman.
No, well, he's very decidedly male.
Yes. Do you think the deepness is corrupting him?
It could be. But I like elemancy, with emotional elemancy. there has to be something there that is then inflamed, rioted, if you please. So he has those tendencies to, he has the tendency to be corrupted. We can see those things within him, and he's definitely corruptible. And if the deepness can have that sort of effect on him, I can see it happening. But also, we don't even need the deepness. We don't even need the deepness to be the corrupting force, because absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And if he's a nobleman, he has power. He understands how the game is played. We know from a previous epigraph that, there are armies at his beck and call now, yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm
It's,
the one with the armies. Yeah.
It's a natural thought.
And also, it's, what,
done.
Yeah, and it is like we can see this is the path. What is it? Path to hell is paved with good intentions. Like literally,
Yes.
that is. I know that is so basic, bitch. But listen, okay.
The Lord,
yeah.
You are the hero of your own story.
Well, I am the hero of my own story. What are you saying? Like he is the hero of his own story. And
yes. Well, no, I was saying you, Kitteh, are the hero of my story. But no, a character is the hero of their own story.
Yes.
So when you have a villain, Palpatine clearly thought he knew how to rule and rule well. So Darth Vader thought he was saving Padme.
Yeah, everyone has their intentions, and they all have. Look, I'm not saying Lemon moral relativism is okay, but but this is an insight into, it's a human insight of you could want what's good for people initially, and then of course go and become a tyrant in the process. There's absolutely nothing that would stop you.
Yes. All right then, shall we get into the chapter?
The chapter? Yes.
Vin resisted the urge to pick at her noblewoman's dress. Even a half week of being forced to wear one, Sazed's suggestion, she found the bulky garment uncomfortable. It pulled tightly at her waist and chest, then fell to the floor with several layers of ruffled fabric, making it difficult to walk. She kept feeling as if she were going to trip, and despite the gown's bulk, she felt as if she were somehow exposed by how tight it was through the chest, not to mention the neckline's low curve. Though she had exposed nearly as much skin when wearing normal button shirts, this seemed different. So that's our first Vin's becoming an adult moment.
Yeah. She's becoming an adult. She's accentuating certain things about her body that she's not used to accentuating, I suppose. Things are held together in ways that haven't been held together before. So so yeah, she's very uncomfortable. But it was a good idea for her to get used to it. But that doesn't. You'll need to get used to it for a lot longer. Yeah, she wants to pick at it and be like, "What is this?" So yeah, it's I do like the idea. Like, I don't know, it's strange. She had exposed nearly as much skin when wearing normal buttoning shirts. I'm glad to know that she's not like walking around really exposed. It's just the way that everything is held together that is very strange to her. It's not that she's now showing more skin. I'm happy with that. I didn't want her to be hoored about, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's what's happening here
Mm-hmm.
by any means. It's just, it's such a different experience for her, any amount of femininity, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she was like, oh no, my earring is too feminine. Now she's wearing a whole ass dress.
Yeah, so it's just such a big lifestyle leap.
Mm-hmm.
Still, she had to admit that the gown caused quite a transformation. The girl who stood in the mirror before her was a strange foreign creature. The light blue dress with its white ruffles and lace matched the sapphire barrettes in her hair. Sazed claimed that he wouldn't be happy until her hair was at least shoulder length, but he had still suggested that she purchase the brooch-like barrettes and put them above each ear. Often aristocrats don't hide their deficiencies. Instead, they highlight them. Draw attention... Why is my page sticking? Draw attention to your short hair, and instead of thinking you're unfashionable, they might be impressed by the statement you are making. She also wore a sapphire necklace, modest by noble standards, but still worth more than 200 boxings. It was complemented by a single ruby bracelet for accentuation. Apparently, the current fashion trend dictated a single splash of a different color to provide the contrast. And it was all hers, paid for by crew funds. If she ran, taking the jewelry and her 3,000 boxings, she could live for decades. It was more tempting than she wanted to admit. Images of Kammen's men, their corpses twisted and dead in the quiet lair, kept returning to her. That was probably what waited for her if she remained. Why then didn't she go? She turned from the mirror, putting on a light blue silken shawl, the female aristocrat's version of a cloak. Why didn't she leave? Perhaps it was her promise to Kelsier. He had given her the gift of allomancy, and he depended on her. Perhaps it was her duty to the others. In order to survive, crews needed each person to do their separate jobs. Reen's training told her that these men were fools, but she was tempted, enticed by the possibility that Kelsier and the others offered. In the end, it wasn't the wealth or the job's thrill that made her stay. It was the shadowed prospect, unlikely and unreasonable, but still seductive, of a group whose members actually trusted one another. She had to stay. She had to know if it lasted, or if it was, as Reen's growing whispers promised, all a lie. She turned and left her room, walking toward the front of Mansion Renault, where Sazed waited with the carriage. She had decided to stay, and that meant she had to do her part. It was time to make her first appearance as a noblewoman.
Ooh, such insight into Vin. And such Vin work, okay? Such insights into Vin sites. Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
We've done it before. Yeah, there's more Vin sites in this, this chapter. Yeah, she actually walks through her reasoning. She's kind of curious. Well, she's walking through why on earth she's staying. We need to understand why she's staying, because everything should be telling her to run, and it is, but she has such a desire to be part of something. You can see her reasoning over all of this stuff. She doesn't. It's more important for her to be part of this than. And
it really speaks to, she doesn't really want to be alone. She wants family. She wants connection. She wants compatriots.
Yes, and she wants to care and be cared about. She wants that, and she wants Reen to be wrong. And yes, she wants Reen to be wrong. She knows he could be right, but she doesn't. I don't. As much as she's telling herself she has to find out whether he's right, it's actually like, no, she's enjoying being part of it right now. It's just very hard to admit that, because that means. Yeah.
It does say Reen's growing whispers all a lie. So these whispers are growing, but then she thinks.
No, sorry, I just wanted to think, like, these they are growing. It makes sense that they don't just fade away magically, and then we just have Kelsier's voice. That this is a lifetime that she's had this kind of reasoning. This is how she's conditioned herself. So this instinct to run away and to expect betrayal is very powerful. And as much as she has got a new voice in her head, if we, so to speak, I don't know. Now it's Reen's voice has been there much longer. It's still going to be a struggle.
Yes. I also really liked the lines. He had given her the gift of allomancy, and he depended on her.
Yes. Oh, yes. That is. Yeah.
And that's really interesting, because I don't think Vin has ever had anyone depend on her before. And that there is a source of pride isn't quite the right word, but I imagine it's an exceptionally new and enticing quality for her because she has depended on others so much throughout her life.
It's a valuable feeling. Somebody depending on you makes you feel valuable. So she is now having this feeling of value that she'd never had before. And yes, she's always been being shown she's worthless and has to depend on the value of others. Now she has value. And the fact is she wasn't given the gift of allomancy by Calcia, but you can see that she's telling herself actually that way as well. Although it's not that she's telling herself, she feels like that he gave her this gift. And yes, in a way, he's taught her, therefore he's given it to her. But she had it in her all along. She just so yes, of course, he's given her something in his teachings, but she's decidedly placed value upon his teaching in such a way that she said, he's given me the gift of allomancy. Like, that's quite a leap for her as well. She's accepted somebody giving her a gift. That's insane.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And then
Vinsight.
I'm gonna Vinsight. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention is I am personally fond of the color blue. I think when women wear blue, it is a very attractive color. So I'm sure she looks very lovely. Sounds like she does. So, yay, Vin.
Yay, Vin. She looked pretty.
Yeah.
And like a woman, but
like
a woman.
Yeah. Okay, shall we move on to the next? It's still her POV, but it's like another section of the chapter. All right.
Let's go.
The carriage shook suddenly, and Vin jumped in surprise. The vehicle continued normally, however, and Sazed didn't move from his place in the driver's seat. A sound came from above. Vin flared her metals, tensing as a figure dropped down off the top of the carriage and landed on the footman's rest right outside her door. Kelsier smiled as he peeked his head in through the window. Vin let out a relieved breath, settling back into her seat.
Could have just asked us to pick you up.
No need, Kelsier said, pulling open the carriage door and swinging inside. No need, Kelsier said, pulling open the carriage. Hello, I live by a train.
Doxed.
I think I might have to keep this in because this was funny. No need, Kelsier said, pulling open the carriage door and swinging inside. It was already dark outside and he wore his mist cloak. I warned Sazed I'd be dropping by sometime during the trip.
And you didn't tell me?
I figured I still owed you for surprising me in that alleyway last week. Okay, we gotta pause here for a second. First discussion of many discussions we're going to have in this chapter. He specifically says last week, but in a previous chapter, he said that Vin's first ball would be at the end of the week. Last week suggests, the week of the 1st as opposed to the week of the 8th, right? So nitpick. This isn't the nitpick that made me angry, but this is a slight nitpick. Yeah,
when he said that, I was just like, okay, it's just I will headcanon that out very quick, and I don't like that I had to do that, but it is nitpicky because it's just, okay, he's just, you say that you move words around in terms of weeks. You can be inaccurate sometimes.
It would be the other day. I still owed you for surprising me in that alleyway the other day. Oh, that was another thing. We just totally just glossed over the Cammon stuff. That was last chapter and suddenly we're at the ball. So we don't know what kind of discussions were had. If there were any discussions that could have been had, we got nothing.
Yeah.
That's not a complaint. It's just what?
Yeah. We got a flashback. We got a oh no, the images have come to her, but we don't have anything else. But what's happening? There's a lot that comes from that chapter. And then it's just like, oh yeah, come, here we go. We're going to the ball. It's like, but we were also thinking that ball should have come up actually before all of that happened. But it seems like what happened is they went back to Lutherdale, and then because they'd been in Felice. Yeah. And then they obviously they stay in Felice, but they went back to Lutherdale to during that time as well, like before this ball, and then the whole Cameron stuff happened, and now we're back in Lutherdale for the ball. But then again, Felice is close enough for her to have come from the manor to the ball. I don't know.
All of this to say, Brandon Sanderson is absolutely incredible at writing characters and dialogue and wittiness and magic systems. I wish he were just a touch better at communicating
time.
Yeah, time passage and like relational distances.
Maybe we'll become more familiar with it. I mean, we'll have more clarity of where they're staying after that turn.
Now, I will say, I know that Brandon Sanderson absolutely loves maps, and perhaps it is a failure on my part that I haven't looked tremendously closely at the maps at the start of the book. But I don't imagine that that I would feel that much better about this particular vein of frustration.
Yeah. We're asking for more detail that isn't there.
Yeah.
But then again, it's because we're reading very closely.
Yes.
We can nitpick because we're literally going chapter by chapter.
Chapter by chapter.
So let's get going back into it. Is that it?
Yes. That is it. Okay. Yeah. So in that alleyway last week.
How very adult of you.
I've always been quite confident in my immaturity. So are you ready for this evening?
How do I look?
Splendid. Exactly like a noble young lady. Don't be nervous, Finn. The disguise is perfect. For some reason, that didn't feel like the answer she'd wanted to hear. Now, let's pause for a moment here. So obviously you and I know how this chapter ends. My very first read through of this chapter, I wondered if Vin, and there's certainly an age disparity between Kelsier and Vin, I wondered if Vin wanted a more romantic answer from Kelsier.
I don't know about romantic, but more like approving. Not just in the context of the job. You just want to know, like, that you don't, if you want someone to find you pretty, yes, I suppose that is it's mostly with romance, but she's just like this is her being a female now and being feminine, and you want the approval of any man because that just means, okay, cool, I'm pretty. And I feel like she wanted to be told that she looks good, not just that the disguise looks good. She wants to
that she is pretty.
Yes. Yeah, somehow, yes, that's exactly it. Like, it's like, oh, the disguise is perfect. And it's like, wait, that's like, oh, someone saying, oh, you look so nice with makeup on. It's like, oh, wait a second. It just doesn't work so much. It's just like, no, I wanted to hear I'm pretty. I think that she wanted to hear she was pretty. And
cool.
He didn't say that you don't look nice. It's not that. It's just somehow it wasn't the answer she wanted to hear. And I like that Vin side that Brandon gave us, because she's got the failings of a woman. That's in failings, as in like the wants of a woman. When you've dressed up, you want someone to notice that you've dressed up. So, especially for her.
Good to know, gentlemen. Take notes. I have it on fairly good authority that Kitteh is a girl, so we can trust this. I actually didn't believe Kitteh was a girl the first time that I found out.
How are you see now? I'm growing my hair. That'll help as well. So indeed. I'm like Vin. When it gets to my shoulders, everybody will believe.
And for those who are wondering what Kitteh looks like, go and subscribe to her channel, ThatDarnKitteh, where she streams on Thursdays and Tuesdays with an occasional Wednesday stream instead of the Tuesday. She does wonderful panel shows and
featuring Dorkus.
featuring me. I make some jokes, and I have something very special planned for a future Thinkers discussion. It's going to be very exciting when I do get to it. It'll take a little while, but there's something exciting coming.
I love it.
Okay. For some reason, that didn't feel like the answer she'd wanted to hear.
Kelsier?
Yes?
I've been meaning to ask this for a while. I understand that you think this is important, having a spy among the nobility, but well, do we really have to do it this way? Couldn't we get street informants to tell us what we need to know about our house politics?
Maybe. But those men are called informants for a reason, Vin. Every question you ask them gives them a clue about your true motives. Even meeting with them reveals a bit of information that they could sell to someone else. It's better to rely on them as little as possible. Vin sighed. I don't send you into danger heedlessly, Vin. We do need a spy among the nobility. Informants generally get their information from servants, but most aristocrats are not fools. Important meetings go on where no servant can overhear them.
And you expect me to be able to get into such meetings?
Perhaps. Perhaps not. Either way, I've learned that it's always useful to have someone infiltrate the nobility. You and Sazed will overhear vital items that street informants wouldn't think important. In fact, merely by being at these parties, even if you don't overhear anything, you will get us information.
Okay, before we continue, do you, or shall we, shall we finish this area, this before we discuss the value of what is happening here? The validity, that's what I mean. Like, is it a good enough reasoning? I suppose let's continue, and then once we're finished, we discuss whether it's good enough reasoning. Huh? Let's see where we go until.
That's fine. I want to.
The Lord Ruler. Are you sure? Don't worry so much. Are you sure? Gosh. Okay, we'll have to only discuss it at the end of that paragraph. Okay.
Perhaps. Perhaps not. Either way, I've learned that it's always useful to have someone infiltrate the nobility. You and Sazed will overhear vital items that street informants wouldn't think important. In fact, merely being at these parties, even if you don't overhear anything, you will get us information.
How so?
Make note of the people who seem interested in you. Those will be of the houses we want to watch. If they pay attention to you, they're probably paying attention to Lord Renaud. And there's one good reason why they would be doing that.
Weapons.
Renaud's position as a weapons merchant will make him valuable to those who are planning military action. These are the houses on which I'll need to focus my attention. There should already be a sense of tension among the nobility. Hopefully, they're starting to wonder which houses are turning against the others. There hasn't been an all-out war among the great houses for over a century, but the last one was devastating. We need to replicate it.
That could mean the deaths of a lot of noblemen.
I can live with that. How about you? Vin smiled despite her tension. There's another reason for you to do this. Sometime during this fiasco of a plan of mine, we might need to face the Lord Ruler. I have a feeling that the fewer people we need to sneak into his presence, the better. Having a Ska Mistborn hiding among the nobility, well, it could be a powerful advantage.
The Lord Ruler? Will he be there tonight?
No. There'll be obligators in attendance, but probably no inquisitors, and certainly not the Lord Ruler. A party like this is far beneath his attention. Vin nodded. She'd never seen the Lord Ruler before. She'd never wanted to. Don't worry so much. Even if you were to meet him, you'd be safe. He can't read minds.
Are you sure?
Well, no. But if he can read minds, he doesn't do it to everyone he meets. I've known several Ska who pretended to be noblemen in his presence. I did it several times myself before. He trailed off, glancing down toward his scar-covered hands.
He caught you, eventually.
And he'll probably do so again, Kelsier said with a wink. But don't worry about him for now. Our goal this evening is to establish Lady Valette Renaud. You won't need to do anything dangerous or unusual. Just make an appearance, then leave when Sazed tells you. We'll worry about building confidence later. Vin nodded. Good girl, Kelsier said, reaching out and pushing open the door. I'll be hiding near the keep, watching and listening. Vin nodded gratefully, and Kelsier jumped out of the carriage door, disappearing into the dark mists.
Woo!
That's a big chunk.
That is a big chunk and lots to discuss. Okay, first of all, the discussion I wanted to have was about the validity of why we are, because remember we spoke a little bit about why should we send Vin, of all people, into this situation? Number one, we had that discussion in previous chapters. But then also the point of having somebody infiltrate the nobility. Is it really a plot contrivance, or is it for real? Is it a valuable thing? And then after that, just a little bit about the Lord Ruler. Go forth, discuss, Dorkus.
Go forth, discuss. Well, it's certainly not a plot contrivance. I would have liked a little bit more fleshing out of the reason why it has to be Vin and Vin alone, given how competent we know these crew leaders to be. But nevertheless, like, the reasons why they would need a spy are solid, certainly.
Yeah, and I mean there is don't forget, like he does say, having a Scar Mistborn hiding among the nobility, well, it could be a powerful advantage. It's because she's Mistborn, not just a misting. So yeah. I mean that for me, earlier on it was enough that she was Mistborn, because she's so. I mean, even within the nobility, being a Mistborn is quite a crazy advantage. So having your infiltrating person be a Mistborn is a good thing to have to. Is a cool thing. Cool is an advantage, a very good advantage. So it makes sense to me. It's not a. I for me, I don't even need more fleshing out for that. But the whole thing about informants was actually it's not just a convenient convenient reasoning. That is, for me, it's quite
cutting
reasonable.
Out the middleman. It's smart.
Yes, it is smart. It's like, and there is, in terms of political intrigue and the game of houses. Wheel of Time. Sorry, Wheel of Time had the game of houses before Game of Thrones. Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure people spoke about the Game of Thrones before and the Game of Houses before Wheel of Time, but the point is, Wheel of Time rules. Okay, so in terms of the Game of Houses, which is not what they refer to it here, but that the kinds of details and assumptions and things, all of the intrigue that you can get from being just on the board. You are a piece. You're not just observing, being a like for an informant. Informants are just observing and looking and then telling you. That she's actually an entity within the nobility. So that's another advantage. She can hear things as a noble. So I'm very convinced by this argument. I know that Vin is a liability herself, but her Mistbornness is good enough for me. What do you think, Dorkus?
I think you've put it beautifully, Lady Kitteh. Right. I completely agree with everything you just said, Kitty. I think you said it really well. Really good. Much good statements. The next part then is the Lord Ruler stuff, and I really, really liked how the exchange about the mind reading and how Kelsey is like, well, no, I guess I don't know that he can, but it just doesn't seem entirely likely.
Yes, I love that, because this is the mythos that he's created around himself. We don't even know. We don't know what he's capable of. He's made sure that we don't know. He's made sure that anything is possible. So you can fear him in all kinds of ways. Look how nice and flexible that is.
And it speaks to a certain degree of open-mindedness for Kelsier. And it also speaks to, like, we live in a world of magic, so why the hell wouldn't he be able to? Maybe that's what the porcelain metal does.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's not that, and also he doesn't do it to everyone he meets, or that it is a possibility. It's smart to have that in mind, that it is a possibility. They are taking a calculated risk. They're saying, okay, well, yeah, even if it's possible, he doesn't do it all the time, and hey, I took the risk earlier, and yes, it didn't turn out well in the end, but there were times that I was successful before. So, yeah, I like that. If it's
not broke, don't fix it.
But I really did enjoy just the that exchange and the fact that, yeah, we don't even know what he's capable of. And a lot of the time, that's what we're scared of with the Lord Ruler. And he's fostered that. He's fostered that mystery.
Indeed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. And last bit is that Calcia is going to be like in the background watching the keep. And Vin nods gratefully. She I know she refers to it later on as well.
She does.
But having Calcia watching everything, and he says to her, "I'll be watching," and that sort of thing. She likes to have that knowledge, and that is what she was talking about to herself.
He's become a source of comfort for her.
Yes, and she's relying on him there as well, and she's not going, "Oh, he will abandon me." Whatever. She knows that she can count on Calcia, that he will be watching her. She didn't. If this was in the beginning and it was the first time, I don't know, the first few minutes, she'd be like, "Oh, he's gonna leave." You know, She knows that he's watching her, so it just speaks to their relationship.
But she has seen his honesty, and his character, his moral character, and
she can rely on him.
Yeah, and it is what she wants in other people. So in my acting classes, when dealing with a character who has a romantic interest, the question the actor has to ask is, what do I see in the other person? What does this other person mean to me? What qualities about them do I find attractive? And you're supposed to do that more or less with everyone.
It doesn't have to be romance, it's relationship.
Right. And I think that Vin, there's something that happens later in the chapter that made me think of that acting lesson. For Vin and Kelsier, Vin, I think, very clearly sees in Kelsier trust. She sees in Kelsier lightness and potentially family and all of these good qualities that she has been longing for. Warmth, yes.
Go back to the thing of her looking in on the kitchen. Exactly that. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's good.
All right, to the next section of the chapter.
In case you guys haven't noticed, this is a long chapter. A longer chapter than 11, than anything.
And there's so much in this chapter, too.
Yeah.
So much. Vin was unprepared for how bright Keep Venture would be in the darkness. The massive building was enveloped in an aura of misty light. As the carriage approached, Vin could see that 8 enormous lights blazed along the outside of the rectangular building. They were as bright as bonfires, yet far more steady, and they had mirrors arranged behind them to make them shine directly on the keep. And of course, I imagine like those giant spotlights that you see. Vin had trouble determining their purpose. The ball would happen indoors. Why light the outside of the building?
Oh, I like that. I'm like, oh, yes, Vin. You don't know what opulence is.
She's too practical for this world.
Yeah, it's just like, no, Vin. Yes, I know that it's going to happen inside, but we have to show how pretty our building is. You have to know that. I like that little bit there. Of course, she's going to she has those kinds of. We see her during this thinking like how a noble woman would think, and also thinking how a scar would think. And this is one of those examples that here she is thinking as herself, like, that's impractical.
The ostentatiousness is important, Vin.
Yes.
Head inside, please, mistress, Vin, Sazed said from his position above. Proper young ladies do not gawk. Vin shot him a glare he couldn't see, but ducked her head back inside, waiting with impatient nervousness as the carriage pulled up to the massive keep. It eventually rolled to a stop, and a Venture footman immediately opened her door. A second footman approached and held out a hand to help her down. Vin accepted his hand, trying with as much grace as possible to pull the frilled, bulky bottom of her dress out of the carriage. As she carefully descended, trying not to trip, she was grateful for the footman's steadying hand, and she finally realized why men were expected to help a lady out of her carriage. It wasn't a silly custom after all. The clothing was the silly part.
I loved that. I loved that so much because when this hand came out, because we've seen it in the like when we first I think it was when we first met Sazed. She was getting out the carriage and somebody was trying to help her out. I think it was Sazed trying to help her out, and she didn't take his hand because it's like, how dare she would never take anyone's hand to get out of a carriage.
Right.
And when that happened, I had that distinct thought, that distinct flash of Finn, take the hand. Yeah.
It's the revelation of it. And it's the fact that she still thinks there's a silly element. It's the clothes that's silly. That was so funny and so well written.
That was just so funny. A funny way of phrasing it. It's just like it's not that it's silly. It's the clothes are still silly. I enjoyed that she's still tomboyish. So it's like it's not like, oh, she still thinks that the clothes are silly. It was such a good little moment.
Sazed surrendered the carriage and took his place a few steps behind her. He wore robes finer than his standard fare, though they still maintained the same V-like pattern. They had a belted waist and wide enveloping sleeves. Forward, mistress, Sazed coached quietly from behind. Up the carpet so that your dress doesn't rub on the cobbles, and in through the main door. Vin nodded, trying to swallow her discomfort. She walked forward, passing noblemen and ladies in various suits and gowns. Though they weren't looking at her, she felt exposed. Her steps were nowhere near as graceful as those of the other ladies, who looked beautiful and comfortable in their gowns. Her hands began to sweat inside her silky blue-white gloves. She forced herself to continue. Sazed introduced her at the door, presenting her invitation to the attendants. The two men, dressed in a black and red servant's suits, bowed and waved her in. A crowd of aristocrats was pooling slightly in the foyer, waiting to enter the main hall.
What am I doing?
She thought frantically. She could challenge mist and allomancy, thieves and burglaries, mist-wraiths and beatings. Yet facing these noblemen and their ladies, going among them in light, visible, unable to hide, this terrified her. Forward, mistress, Sazed said in a soothing voice. Remember your lessons.
Hide, find a corner, shadows, mists, anything.
That was neat because, those were also her lessons.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's exactly where her brain went, especially in her terrified state. That's what you do when you're terrified.
Yes, and also noteworthy, this is how you handle a character who is exceptionally talented, exceptionally gifted at a particular set of skills. You put them in situations where those skills aren't useful.
Yes, it makes them fallible, it makes them human, it makes them relatable. Because yes, you might be good at some things, but you're usually bad at others. That's normal. That's endearing. Look at that. Look how they're doing the female here.
Yep, unless you're Ray and you suddenly develop new skills whenever you need it.
And she had them all along. It was just there. All she had to do. It was just everybody else's fault. Yeah, no. This is how you do it right. Take note.
Yeah, never mind that, she knows how to fly the Millennium Falcon with, no little to no training or knowledge on the topic. Who cares that she anyway, this is not a
that's okay. Let's not do it.
Yeah. This is not a Star Wars critique stream. This is a Mistborn stream where we have a wonderfully developing strong female character.
Yes. Done right. Okay.
Vin kept her hands clasped rigidly before her, walking forward. Sazed walked beside her. Out of the corner of her eyes, she could see concern on his normally calm face. I read that the first time and I was like, oh shit. If he's looking nervous, oh no, then she must be freaking the hell out.
Yeah, she's looking to him for support, and then she's like, "Oh, look, he's feeling nervous." So of course, that's why she goes. And well, he should worry. She thinks that.
Yes, everything he had taught her seemed fleeting, vaporous, like the mists themselves. She couldn't remember names, customs, anything. She stopped right inside the foyer, and an imperious-looking nobleman in a black suit turned to regard her. Vin froze. The man looked her over with a dismissive glance, then turned away. She distinctly heard the name Renault whispered, and she glanced apprehensively to the side. Several women were looking at her. Yet, it didn't feel like they were seeing her at all. They were studying the gown, the hair, and the jewelry. Vin glanced to the other side, where a group of younger men were watching her. They saw the neckline, the pretty dress, and the makeup, but they didn't see her. None of them could see Vin. They could only see the face she had put on, the face she wanted them to see. They saw Lady Valette. It was as if Vin weren't there, as if she were hiding right in front of their eyes. And suddenly, her tension began to retreat. She let out a long, calming breath, anxiety flowing away. Sazed's training returned, and she adopted the look of a girl amazed by her first formal ball. She stepped to the side, handing her shawl to an attendant, and Sazed relaxed beside her. Vin shot him a smile, then swept forward into the main hall. She could do this. She was still nervous, but the moment of panic was over. She didn't need shadows or corners. She just needed a mask of sapphires, makeup, and blue fabric.
Blue.
That's a good place to pause. Blue!
Yeah. Yes, blue.
So very, very nice. Good color.
Yes.
And speak on that for a moment, Kitteh, please.
Speaking of the disguise, it is a disguise that she's wearing. I wanted to ask you, okay, so I was, the first read through, I was like, cool, this is great. Second read through, I was like, wait a second. I'm now paranoid for everything. I'm like, does Sazed have allomantic sort of skills? Is he kind of helping her out here? Can he sense her? Hey?
You're asking, did he soothe her?
Yeah, in some way. Or yeah, it seems like a lot more logic was involved. I don't know. Either way, it makes sense to me, and it wasn't miraculous.
Yeah, I think she came to the realization on her own. I think she pulled herself out of the panic.
Yeah, it was a consideration for me because also they're bouncing. I don't know, maybe what I do take from this is that Sazed is very sensitive to her. So whatever she is thinking or feeling, he kind of mirrored that. So like as soon as she stopped being nervous, he stopped being nervous. So he was very aware of her. So his nervousness wasn't because she was doing something wrong. It was because she was nervous. So I'm not saying that there's magic involved here. I'm just saying he's very sensitive to her. I did consider it. All I'm saying is that I considered the magic.
He's got that high wisdom score. He's got that high insight skill check.
Yes.
He makes it with advantage. Yes, he makes the insight check with advantage because he's been the one training Vin. Mm-hmm. Arguably, he might even know her better than Kelsier does.
Interesting.
And clearly he passed his insight check. It's just, I'm still reeling over the fact that she looked so nervous that Sazed looked nervous because Sazed is supposed to be this ever stoic servant.
Yeah. So he was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, he must have been really freaking out when he saw her freaking out.
they could just circulate, just go into this both freak out. So luckily, I like the way she took the reactions of people into consideration. So she noticed them. She didn't sit within herself and just carry on being scared. She realized, wait a second, they're not looking at me. They're just looking at whatever I'm wearing here. And I love the progression through that reasoning. It was very interesting to go through.
Oh, it's fine. They're not looking at me. They're just judging me.
Yeah, it's fine. But also, so she just puts it away. She's like, no, it's Lady Valette. It's not Vin. As long as it's not Vin, then we're fine. And yeah, they're just looking at all. This is a disguise. She's not a Scar. She's actually a noble woman, so she can go and the fact is she just needs to find a way to frame it that she's hiding, and she feels much better. That can become maladaptive, but in this case, we do want her to be thinking that way.
Yes. The Venture main hall was a grand and imposing sight. 4 or 5 daunting stories high, the hall was several times as long as it was wide. Enormous rectangular stained glass windows ran in rows along the hall, and the strange, powerful lights outside shone on them directly, throwing a cascade of colors across the room. That sounds gorgeous, by the way. Massive, ornate stone pillars were set into the walls, running between the windows. Before the pillars met the floor, the wall fell away, indenting and creating a single-story gallery beneath the windows. Dozens of white-clothed tables sat in this area, shadowed behind the pillars and beneath the overhang. In the distance, at the far end of the hallway, Vin could make out a low balcony set into the wall, and this held a smaller group of tables. "The dining table of Lord Straff Venture," Salzad whispered, gesturing toward the far balcony.
"And those lights outside?"
"Limelights, mistress. I'm not certain the process used. Somehow the quicklime stones can be heated to brilliance without melting them." A string orchestra played on a platform to her left, providing music for the couples who danced in the very center of the hall. To her right, serving tables held platter upon platter of foods, being attended by scurrying serving men in white. Salzette approached an attendant and presented Vin's invitation. The man nodded, then whispered something in a younger servant's ear. The young man bowed to Vin, then led the way into the room. "I asked for a small solitary table. You won't need to mingle during this visit, I think. Just be seen." Vin nodded gratefully. "The solitary table will mark you as single. Eat slowly. Once your meal is through, men will come to ask you to dance."
"You didn't teach me to dance."
"There wasn't time, mistress." "Very not. Respectfully and rightfully, you can refuse these men. They will assume that you are simply flustered by your first ball, and no harm will be done." Vin nodded, and the serving men led them to a small table near the center of the hallway. Vin seated herself in the only chair while Sazed ordered her meal. He then stepped up to stand beside her chair. Vin sat, primly waiting. Most of the tables lay right beneath the overhang of the gallery, up close to the dancing, and that left a corridor-like walkway behind them near the wall. Couples and groups passed along this, speaking quietly. Occasionally, someone gestured or nodded toward Vin.
Well, that part of Kelsey's plan is working.
She was getting noticed. She had to force herself not to cringe or sink down in her chair, however, as a high prelin strolled along the pathway behind her. He wasn't the one she had met, fortunately, though he had the same gray robes and dark tattoos around his eyes. Actually, there were a fair number of obligators at the party. They strolled about, mingling with the partygoers, and yet there was an aloofness to them, a division. They hovered about, almost like chaperones.
The garrison watches the scar. Apparently, the obligators perform a similar function for the nobility.
Now, this is important because I think this is a callback to a conversation we had in one of the way earlier chapters that I don't remember. Mm-hmm. It was an odd sight. She'd always thought of the noblemen as being free, and truthfully, they were far more confident than the Ska. Many seemed to be enjoying themselves, and the obligators didn't seem to be acting really as police or even specifically as spies, yet they were there, hovering about, joining in conversations, a constant reminder of the Lord Ruler and his empire.
Mm-hmm.
So, was it the prologue that we had this conversation? It was.
Yes.
Okay. Long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
When we talked about trusting.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And the role of the obligate. Yes. But also this in context of with the epigraph as well. This is how he does a single empire unified and all of that. It's through this constant reminder of his empire. That's how you have to try and run an empire. When you want to have a single person in control, you need this kind of oversight into people, that people aren't, that there has to be some sort of control. And there it is within this chapter. But yeah, in relation to the prologue, what we were asking what their purpose was.
Well, I was referring more to how the noblemen are basically just luckier Ska. Like they have their own oppression issues to deal with. It's just that coming from the Ska point of view, the noblemen seem oh so privileged, and they certainly have degrees of privilege, but they are also under the yoke of tyranny.
Yes, exactly. There is still tyranny there. Yes, I would prefer to be a nobleman, but that they're in danger in the same way. They have to think about, they can also just be cast aside quite easily. They are still under the boot, but it's just a softer boot, it seems, until until you step wrong. So there's rules, and I like that Vin has that insight. It's not a Vin insight, but it's an insight from her. She has the insight. She realizes, oh, okay, yes, of course, the noblemen are, they have more freedom in certain ways, but they are also oppressed in other ways, and that's quite interesting because we had the earlier discussion, or the earlier like little smile between her and Calcia that, oh, noblemen are going to die. It's like, oh, what if we start relating to noble people too much? Then them dying is not going to be as satisfying as we thought it would be. And let us continue, and we'll see.
Vin turned her attention away from the obligators. Their presence still made her a bit uncomfortable, and instead focused on something else, the beautiful windows. Sitting where she was, she could see some of the ones directly across and up from where she sat. They were religious, like many scenes preferred by the aristocracy. Perhaps it was to show devotion, or perhaps it was required. Vin didn't know enough, but likely that was something Valette wouldn't know either, so it was all right. Fortunately, she did recognize some of the scenes, mostly because of Sazed's teachings. He seemed to know as much about the Lord Ruler's mythology as he did about other religions, though it seemed odd to her that he would study the very religion he found so oppressive. I appreciate that it seems odd to her because she's young, but I think it is entirely natural that he would come to understand the Lord Ruler's religion as well.
Of course. You shouldn't be just ignoring. You want to know absolutely everything about your enemy.
Especially if you're going to be trying to take them down.
Exactly. And especially if you also just have the purpose in life of knowing religions, you'll know all of them. And this currently oppressive one, of course you're going to know about it.
Yes. Central to many of the windows was the deepness, black, or in window terms, violet. It was formless, with vengeful, tentacle-like masses creeping across several windows. Cthulhu. Was the Lord Ruler taken over by Cthulhu? Is he possessed? Is that what happened to Epigraph Man?
It's possible.
Maybe he took on the darkness of the deepness upon himself, saving the world, but in the process becoming the evil that he hoped to destroy.
I hate possible. That is very possible. So like, I know you're making a joke, but it's like, yes.
Vin looked up at it along with the brilliantly colored depictions of the Lord Ruler and found herself a little bit transfixed by the backlit scenes.
What was it? The deepness. Why depict it so formlessly? Why not show what it really was?
She'd never really wondered about the deepness before, but Sazed's lessons left her wondering. Her instincts whispered scam. See, I don't think it's a scam, especially because we have the benefit of the epigraphs. The Lord Ruler had invented some terrible menace that he'd been able to destroy in the past, therefore earning his place as emperor. And yet staring up at the horrible twisting thing, Vin could almost believe. What if something like that? Yes?
Okay. Vin could almost believe. It's okay, so yes, there might be a scam here, but the scam is not that the deepness didn't exist. It's that the deepness has been defeated. That, for me, is the scam. That because remember, we had this kind of instinct for maybe so first of all, he had to take the deepness into himself somehow, like you've just said earlier. But there's also him, he's keeping it at bay. It's not actually defeated. It's the ash and all of that is an ongoing battle. If I'm correct, that's what we were discussing before.
Yeah.
So there could be a scam in that we're acting as if, yes, it's done, it's triumphed, that's it. So the whole use of atium and all of that, like, no, I want to see, there's more to be, we know there's a scam afoot here, but we know that the scam is not that the deepness doesn't exist. It's the nature of the deepness we don't really know.
Yes. Mm-hmm. What if something like that had existed? And if it had, how had the Lord Ruler managed to defeat it? She sighed, shaking her head at the thoughts. Already she was beginning to think too much like a noblewoman. She was admiring the beauty of the decorations, thinking about what they meant, without giving more than a passing thought to the wealth that had created them. It was just that everything here was so wondrous and ornate. The pillars in the hall were no simple columns. They were carved masterpieces. Wide banners hung from the ceiling above the windows, and the arching, lofty ceiling was crisscrossed by structural buttressing and dotted with capstones. Somehow she knew each of those capstones was intricately carved, despite the fact that they were too far away to be seen from below. And the dancers matched, perhaps even outshone the exquisite setting. Couples moved gracefully, stepping to the soft music with seemingly effortless motions. Many were chatting with one another while they danced. The ladies moved freely in their dresses, many of which, Vin noticed, made her own frilly garment look plain by comparison. Salzed was right. Long hair was certainly the fashion, though an equal number kept their hair up as left it down. Surrounded by the majestic hall, the sharp-suited noblemen looked different somehow, distinguished. Were these the same creatures that beat her friends and enslaved the Ska? They seemed too perfect, too well-mannered for such horrible acts.
I wonder if they even noticed the outside world. Perhaps they can't see beyond their keeps and their balls, just like they can't see past my dress and my makeup.
That's an interesting thought she has. I'm certain that there are any number of noblemen who don't have it anywhere in their consciousness to consider the state of the world and the things that are in Vin's sphere of influence, so to speak.
Yeah, that it makes sense that's what happens with elites. They live in a completely different world. They don't perceive certain things. But now what she's done is moved from perceiving the rest of the world into this world. She's got the insight, and she's like, she's able to see both sides of it. She can see that look at them, they're all well mannered and they're all perfect, and so yes, this could make you hate them even more, because it's like, look how hypocritical they are. They look all polite and everything amongst each other, but then when it comes to the Ska, they mistreat the Ska. But the thing is, she's
But the thing is, she's
no. I was gonna stumble over that, so I was hoping you could help me.
It made me think of, I think it was the Roman Emperor Honorius, who was the emperor. Yeah, yes. Famous, well-known Emperor Honorius.
Yeah, no, sorry, I just thought I'd make a joke for that. Yes?
No, I got the joke. It was very funny.
Thank you.
He was, I believe, emperor when the Goths sacked Rome. And when he found out, he was told, Rome has fallen. And Honorius, leapt out of his chair and ran to his pigeons and found his pigeon named Rome, and he's like, he seems fine. He thought that he was being told about his pigeon and not the actual city, because he was so in his own world. And then it also had me thinking of the Three Kingdoms period in China and the fall of the Han Dynasty, where you have this succession of emperors who were so influenced by their advisors that they had no idea that there was this famine going on in the outside world. So it's not wholly unbelievable to think that these noblemen could have no real or meaningful idea of what's going on outside their doorstep.
Yeah, and she's noticing that in this context. She's noticing how this comes to be, how they act over here. You can just inhabit this world and not think of the others. Like she herself is being taken in by it, even with her insight into how the world really is and what it really is based on, and who it really affects, how this wealth and ornateness has come to be. She has all of that, but she herself even is a bit taken by it. She can feel herself being taken in by it, and also realizing a bit of the humanity of the noblemen, which is oopsie poopsie. That's a bit difficult because they're supposed to be all bad, only bad, and we're supposed to hate them absolute from the beginning. They should be absolutely nothing. They should be as ugly as they should look as ugly as they act, but they don't.
Yeah. Sazed tapped her shoulder and Vin sighed, adopting a more ladylike posture. The meal arrived a few moments later, a feast of such strange flavors that she would have been daunted had she not eaten similar fare often during the last few months. Sazed's lessons might have omitted dancing, but they had been quite extensive regarding dining etiquette, for which Vin was grateful. As Kelsier had said, her main purpose of the evening was to make an appearance, and so it was important that she make a proper one. She ate delicately as instructed, and that allowed her to be slow and meticulous. She didn't relish the idea of being asked to dance. She was half afraid that she'd panic again if anyone actually spoke to her. However, a meal could only be extended so long, especially one with a lady's small portions. She soon finished and set her fork across the plate, indicating that she was done. This enraged me.
Why?
This made me furious.
Is this the nitpick that made you angry?
This is the worst thing that Brandon Sanderson has ever written. He did not tell us what the meal was.
Oh, was that what you were upset with?
That upset me so much. I want to know what she ate. Food. I want to know what nobleman food is like. Okay, look, we know that the Ska eat barley. We know that they have breakfast barley burritos, and we know they eat fruits. But damn it, this is a ball. The food is important. I know he's not George R.R. Martin, who has to have food every 3 sentences, but damn it, Brandon Sanderson, what did she eat?
Yes, okay, yeah, I get it. We've had, thanks, Branderson. He's been carrying on about the architecture and a little bit about the way people are dressed and stuff. So yes, I understand your frustration here that why didn't we have food? I can see people being like, that's too much description for me and whatever. But yeah, him just saying the flavors were exotic, or basically there's lots of flavors. Cool, thanks. But what is it?
You hear that?
That's the deepness calling.
The deepness, it calls me. Hello, I live by an airport and a train.
Ducks.
Look, in all seriousness, I actually am a little annoyed that there wasn't a food description here, a more specific food description. I'm genuinely curious what the nobles eat. I think it would be an insight into the flora and fauna of this world of Ash. And I want to know the meats. And he spent so much wonderful time talking about the architecture, and he did it so well. And he made a point of saying that she's eating, so we know that she's eating. I just want to know what. 2 sentences.
Yeah.
No,
I agree. I agree with that.
Just say it's quail in a light apricot sauce and move on.
Because we know that there's things such as sausages in this world. So yeah, just something like that. Because you've described it's part of the world building. So I agree with you. I would yes, you got different. All he did was refer to flavors. We want names. Okay, give us names.
And we've talked a little bit in the past about how I'm trying to visualize these different cultures by the naming conventions. Rashek versus Vin. Renault, which has the French influence. Food can go a tremendously long way towards doing that. Now, I'm imagining that this central dominance is very French influenced. So is it boeuf bourguignon? Are they having that? For me, it would have done a lot. It would have enhanced this already wonderful chapter. I like this chapter a lot. He packed 1,000 things in here.
Yes. That's why I'm why not this? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people would be like, I'll get over it because they don't like spending time on descriptions. I do. I really do like little. That's what we're reading for. We don't have images in front of us. We need them to be described to us so that we can create the image in our head. And naming foods would help us because the food is just a big blank. It's like, oh, she's eating, but it's like think about it as if like an AI is is drawing this. That it's just blobs at the moment. It's the deepness on her plate there.
She's eating the deepness. Okay.
Rant
we'll
over.
move on from here. Rant over. This has been the Dorkus rant hour, which followed the Dorkus history hour.
I'm hungry.
Me too. The first suitor approached not 2 minutes later. Lady Valette Rideau, the young man asked, bowing just slightly. He wore a green vest beneath his long dark suit coat. I am Lord Rayan Strobe. Would you care to dance?
My lord, you're kind, but this is my first ball, and everything here is so grand. I feel that I'll stumble from nervousness on the dance floor. Perhaps next time?
Okay, so that was good, Kitty. But I remember that Sazed says that you speak with an accent as Lady Valette.
Accent.
So
do I have to speak? Of course.
I'm going to need you to give me a take 2 with an accent.
My lord. You are kind. See, now I'm just going to... Okay, I'm going to try value. My lord. You can you give it to me? You do it. You are kind, but this is my first ball.
Can you do a southern accent?
Okay.
Something completely ridiculous.
My lord. No, then I have to continue with it, but I'll just for fun, okay? My lord.
I won't make you do the whole thing, but give me one take as a southern belle.
Okay, I'll try. My lord. You are kind, but this is my first ball, and everything here is so grand. I feel that I'll stumble from nervousness on the dance floor. Perhaps next time.
I love it. So good.
That's not what we have for, but I mean, I enjoyed that. That was fun to do.
Clearly, we need you to continue doing this now.
What, the whole way?
Whenever you are playing the lady, whenever you are playing the lady, Valette Renaud.
Valette Renaud. Transformative. I'm sure this is exactly how it went in Brandison's head.
Exactly. Certainly, my lady, he said with a courteous nod, then withdrew. Very well done, mistress. Your accent was masterful. You will, of course, have to dance with him at the next ball. We shall surely have you trained by then, I think.
Maybe he won't attend.
Perhaps, but not likely. The young nobility are rather fond of their nightly diversions.
They do this every night.
Nearly. The balls are, after all, a prime reason for people to come to Lusadel. If one is in town and there is a ball, and there almost always is, one generally attends, especially if one is young and unmarried. You won't be expected to attend quite so frequently, but we should probably get you up to attending 2 or 3 a week.
2 or 3? I'm going to need more gowns.
I love that that's where her mind goes. And so does Sazed.
Yeah. Yeah, he goes, go.
Thinking like a noble woman already. Now, mistress, if you will excuse me.
Okay, so just hold on. Look, she's thinking, yes, that's a joke. She's thinking like a noble woman already. She's just, that is a practical thought, okay? She was thinking practically about the lights when she walked in, okay? So now she's just thinking, wait, if I have to do this, I have to have more dresses.
Yes.
That's not, but obviously as a noblewoman, be like, oh, I'll need more gowns. Like, it's a great, so Sazed, I'm loving the humor of Sazed.
Me too.
Excuse you?
To the steward's dinner. A servant of my rank is generally dismissed once my master's meal is finished. I hesitate to go and leave you, but that room will be filled with the self-important servants of the high nobility. There will be conversations there that Master Kelsier wishes me to overhear. Now, let's hold on a second here. And the other thing that I was quite not perturbed, but quizzical over was they're talking pretty darn openly right now. I'm sure they're like whispering, but I feel like there should have been a no breaking character rule established beforehand.
Yeah, and don't be saying the word Kelsier.
Yeah.
Don't be saying that at all. It's a well-known name, not like by everybody in the nobility.
What
but
if
to the Lord Ruler?
Yeah, I mean, like, I know they said noblemen find it rude to alimance at these places, but what if there is genuinely another Mistborn who is listening in on conversations?
And Vin does it just now. She actually does do that. So what if it's rude? The point is people can't detect it. That there are things that people do, whether it's allomantic, because allomancy exists, whether it's allomancy, or whether it's literally just using your normal senses to be rude. It exists. It happens. So they talk very openly, and yes, of course, I was also going to just make a mention of, okay, so her accent can't be too different. Like, I know we're making a joke about it, but when she's talking to Sazed, she should be maintaining whatever accent. So, like, say she was somehow like a New Yorker the whole time when she's talking to other Scar, and then she's got to suddenly turn Southern. She would need to keep that the whole way through.
It's like when Eliza Doolittle yells out to the horses or whatever it was. Like, obviously, everyone, come on.
So we have to make this huge assumption that nobody is listening, and also, like, we're not even just saying our friend or something like that. You know. Yes, of course, it would be very suspicious for them that they were talking about a certain friend. But they're literally using the Calcia word. Okay. No, you should not be using that. I'm pretty sure people know his name, as in especially the Lord Ruler, and it can easily get back to him. Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, another benefit of having a noble person infiltrate, their steward themselves is a trusted informant, not just somebody who's being paid off.
Yes.
You're leaving me by myself?
You've done well so far, mistress. No major mistakes, or at least none that wouldn't be expected of a lady new to court.
Like what?
We shall discuss them later. Just remain at your table, sipping your wine, try not to get it refilled too often, and wait for my return. If other young men approach, turn them away, and as delicately as you did the first.
And a note for the Wheel of Time fans. I thought of what's the name? The daughter heir's foray into drinking wine when she gets her cut. There's this character. She gets her cut refilled and refilled and refilled, and she gets very drunk. I did think of that, but yes, let's go. Sorry.
All good. Always take time to make your Wheel of Time knowledge known. Vin nodded reluctantly. I shall return in about an hour, Sazed promised. He remained, however, as if waiting for something.
You're dismissed.
Thank you, mistress, he said, bowing and withdrawing, leaving her alone.
Not alone. Kelsey is out there somewhere watching in the night.
The thought comforted her, though she wished she didn't feel the empty space beside her chair quite so keenly. I like that she is thinking of Kelsier as a source of comfort.
Yeah, and says it. Even though he's gone, that means he was comforting having her there. And yes, call back to him being out there somewhere, and that is a source of comfort for her. Such progress in her trust building phase.
Wonderful, wonderful progress. 3 more young men approached her for dances, but each one accepted her polite rejection. No others came after them. Word had probably gotten around that she wasn't interested in dancing. She memorized the names of the 4 men who had approached her. Kelsier would want to know them, and began to wait. Oddly, she soon found herself growing bored. The room was well ventilated, but she still felt hot beneath the layers of fabric. Her legs were especially bad since they had to deal with her ankle-long undergarments. The long sleeves didn't help either, though the silky material was soft against her skin. The dancing continued, and she watched with interest for a time. However, her attention soon turned to the obligators. Interestingly, they did seem to serve some sort of function at the party. Though they often stood apart from the groups of chatting nobility, occasionally they would join in, and every so often a group would pause and seek out an obligator, waving one over with a respectful gesture. Vin frowned, trying to decide what she was missing. Eventually, a group at a nearby table waved to a passing obligator. The table was too far away to hear unaided, but with tin, she reached inside to burn the metal, but then hesitated.
Copper first,
she thought, turning the metal on. She would have to grow accustomed to leaving it on almost all the time so that she wouldn't expose herself. Now, I was surprised at that. I was surprised she wasn't already burning copper, like the second she walked through those doors.
Yeah, because she should be, because burning copper hides your elemancy and also makes you invulnerable to emotional elemancy. So
yeah, and she had said on several occasions, I think now, that she would have to remember to always have it active.
Yeah, but she keeps forgetting.
Apparently.
I can relate, but yeah, she's still learning. And I guess in this context as well, when she's out in the mists and things, it's all very action-packed and cool. Now it's like, oh yeah, she's just busy sitting and using her animantic powers for like mundane sort of things. So now she's got to remember that. Even when you're using it for like a mundane thing where there's no action going on, you do need to remember where you are. I'm glad she remembered. Sheesh.
Agreed. That could have been messy.
Yeah, because we were just saying how it's rude to eavesdrop. So it's like, well,
exactly. And who's to say that there aren't people like the obligators paying attention to this kind of thing?
Exactly.
So that was a close call. Her allomancy hidden, she burned tin. Immediately, the light in the room became blinding, and she had to close her eyes. The band's music became louder, and a dozen conversations around her turned from buzzes to audible voices. She had to try hard to focus on the one she was interested in, but the table was the one closest to her, so she eventually singled out the appropriate voices. "Swear that I'll share news of my engagement with him before anyone else," one of the people said. Vin opened her eyes a slit. It was one of the noblemen at the table. "Very well," said the obligator. "I witness and record this." The nobleman reached out a hand and coins clinked. Vin extinguished her tin, opening her eyes all the way in time to see the obligator wandering away from the table, slipping something, likely the coins, into a pocket of his robes.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, the people at that table soon rose and went their separate ways, leaving Vin without anyone close enough to eavesdrop upon. Her boredom returned as she watched the obligator stroll across the room toward one of his companions. She began to tap on the table, idly watching the two obligators until she realized something. She recognized one of them. Not the one who had taken the money earlier, but his companion, an older man. Short and firm-featured, he stood with an imperious air. Even the other obligator seemed deferential to him. At first, Vin thought her familiarity came from her visit to the Canton of Finance with Kamen, and she felt a stab of panic. But then she realized that this wasn't the same man. She'd seen him before, but not there. He was...
my father.
She realized with stupefaction. Oof, I read that and I was like, oh shit!
Holy damn, I did not see that coming. Like,
no.
I just was, I know, I didn't see it coming, okay? I knew this, so she's already said it's not the guy from the Canton, so I'm like, well, I know that I could have put two and two together and thought it could be her father, but I was too busy going, who is it, to even think about who it is.
Yes. I thought we were going to get like some new like backstory of almost being caught on a previous heist or something. But no, it was her father. And I have so much that I want to say about this. But I'm going to read through the next like 2 paragraphs and say each bit that I want to say as it becomes pertinent.
Okay.
Unless there's anything you want to say before we start moving on.
Oh, let's go.
Reen had pointed him out once when they had first come to Luthadel a year ago. He had been inspecting the workers at a local forge. Reen had taken Vin, sneaking her in, insisting that she at least see her father once, though she still didn't understand why. Okay. That is support for my theory that the father might have figured out the truth about Vin and had been the one chasing them, because Reen wanted to show Vin. It doesn't sound like Vin was interested in knowing, but Reen had insisted clearly there's a reason for that.
I went there too. I also thought it had to do with that theory. I was like, okay, that's definitely related. That is at least I can just say, okay, those are related.
Yeah. She had memorized the face anyway. She resisted the urge to shrink down in her chair. There was no way the man would be able to recognize her. He didn't even know she existed. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first off, how much do you think Vin looks like her mother?
I don't know.
It's never been like a topic or anything. But like I think it could be like I look very similar to my dad, or so I'm told. I don't think it's like impossible for her to be noteworthy to him, even if he doesn't necessarily know that. Wait, you look like my dad?
No, I'm told that I look like my dad.
I wish I had thought of that joke just like a second earlier.
Well, it's still funny.
Yes. Okay. No, it's like he might not necessarily know that she's his daughter, but if I saw someone that looked just like a younger version of me, or just like a younger version of my hopefully wife, then there would be something noteworthy about that, and she does not want to be noteworthy. So either way, it's a dangerous situation, and I don't believe that he doesn't know she exists. I do not believe that.
Underneath that, because I didn't think about him recognizing her. I didn't think that he would be able to, because there's just this veneer on everyone at the moment. He would be taken up in the same way that other people are. Yeah, I definitely, when she said he doesn't know I exist, oh, honey, I was like, oh, he's putting that's bait, okay? Because I think he does. Yeah.
100%, and she's gonna figure it out. There is mystery to her past that she has to figure out.
I cannot wait for that.
She forcibly turned her attention away from him, looking up at the windows instead. She couldn't get that good a look at them, however, because the pillars and overhang restricted her view. As she sat, she noticed something she hadn't seen before: a lofty inset balcony that ran above the entire far wall. It was like a counterpart to the alcove beneath the windows, except it ran at the top of the wall, between the stained glass windows and the ceiling. She could see movement upon it, couples and singles strolling along, looking down upon the party below, which I bet looks lovely. Her instincts drew her toward the balcony, from where she could watch the party without being seen. It would also give her a wonderful view of the banners and the windows directly above her table, not to mention let her study the stonework without seeming to gawk. Sazed had told her to stay, but the more she sat, the more she found her eyes drawn toward the hidden balcony. She itched to stand up and move, to stretch her legs and perhaps air them out a bit. The presence of her father, oblivious to her or not, served only as another motivation for her to leave the main floor.
It isn't like anyone else is asking me to dance, and I've done what Calcia wanted. I've been seen by the nobility.
She paused, then waved for a servant boy. He approached with alacrity. Yes, Lady Rideau?
How do I get up there?
Oh, you did the accent! I wasn't expecting it.
Okay, I'll only do it for this chapter, but I don't know how we're going to do it in the conversations later.
Look, every single person in the comment section needs to insist that Kitty continue with the Southern Belle accent. Please.
Poor Vin, the slander of this poor character. I mean, it's already bad enough. Like, I already sound so bad, and okay, but you know, look, we have fun here.
Look, yes, we're a very professional setup here, and we expect only the highest. Very transformative. We expect only the highest of performances from you, but all the same, I think we can give you a bit of leeway and allow you to do the accent badly, just like my Dachshund and my Sazed are so terrible. If I'm going to embarrass myself, Kitteh, you must too.
Okay. I don't think it's comparable, but yes. Okay, we'll continue.
Yes, Lady Rideau?
I'm going to do it again.
Yes.
How do I get up there?
Vin asked, pointing toward the balcony. There are stairs to the side of the orchestra, my lady. Climb them up to the top landing. Vin nodded her thanks, then determined she stood and What?
Sorry. She's nodding her thanks with a southern accent.
Vin nodded her thanks, southernly. Then determined she stood and made her way to the front of the room. No one gave her passing more than a glance, and she walked with more confidence as she crossed the hallway to the stairwell. Oh man, I totally just realized how much more talking Vin has to do.
Yes, exactly. We can't do it that way. It's way too...
No, you have to. Oh, this is gonna be...
burn it. Okay.
Oh gosh, where was I? No one gave her passing more than a glance, and she walked with more confidence as she crossed the hallway to the stairwell. The stone corridor twisted upward, curling upon itself, its steps short but steep. Little stained-glass windows, no wider than her hand, ran up the outside wall, though they were dark in color, lacking backlight. Vin climbed eagerly, working away her restless energy, but she soon began to puff from the weight of the dress and the difficulty of holding it up so that she didn't trip. A spark of burned pewter, however, made the climb effortless enough that she didn't sweat and ruin her makeup. The climb proved to be worth the effort. The upper balcony was dark, lit only by several small blue-glass lanterns on the walls, and it gave an amazing view of the stained glass windows. The area was quiet, and Vin felt practically alone as she approached the iron railing between the two pillars looking down. The stone tiles of the floor below formed a pattern she hadn't noticed, a kind of free-form curving of gray upon white.
Mists?
She wondered, idly leaning against the railing. It, like the lantern bracket behind her, was intricate and detailed. Both had been wrought in the form of thick, curving vines. To her sides, the tops of the pillars were carved into the stone animals that appeared frozen in the motion of jumping off of the balcony. Now see, here's the problem with going to refill your cup of wine. The sudden voice made Vin jump, and she spun. By the way, Kitteh, have I mentioned how much I hate Marius from Les Mis?
Yes, you have.
Yes, I have. Okay. The sudden voice made Vin jump, and she spun. A young man stood behind her. His suit wasn't the finest she had seen, nor was his vest as bright as most. Both coat and shirt seemed to fit too loosely, and his hair was a bit disheveled. He carried a cup of wine, and the outer pocket of his suit coat bulged with the shape of a book that was slightly too large for its confines. Look, I'm just saying, Marius is just a pretty boy. He is a privileged, pretty boy, and he does not deserve Cosette or Eponine.
Okay.
And what he did to Jean Valjean is just a dick move. Screw Marius. The problem is, the young man said, you return to find that your favorite spot has been stolen by a pretty girl. Now, a gentleman would move on to another place, leaving the lady to her contemplations. However, this is the best spot on the balcony. It's the only place close enough to a lantern to have good reading light. Vin flushed.
I'm sorry, my lord.
Now I feel guilty. All for a cup of wine. Look, there's plenty of room for two people here. Just scoot over a bit. Vin hesitated. Could she politely refuse? He obviously wanted her to stay near him. Did he know who she was? Should she try to find out his name so she could tell Kelsier? She stepped a bit to the side, and the man took a place next to her. He leaned back against the side pillar and, surprisingly, took out his book and began to read. He was right. The lantern shone directly on the pages. Vin stood for a moment, watching him, but he seemed completely absorbed. He didn't even pause to look up at her.
Isn't he going to pay me any attention at all?
Vin thought, puzzled at her own annoyance.
Maybe I should have worn a fancier dress.
Guys, I think Vin may be a girl.
She's girling hard.
She is girling hard. The man sipped at his wine, focusing on the book.
Do you always read at balls?
The young man looked up. Whenever I can get away with it.
Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of coming?
Come on, you've got one more.
Yeah.
You've got a better Southern belle in you than that. Come on. I believe in you.
Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of coming? Why attend if you're just going to avoid socializing?
You're up here too.
I just wanted to get a brief view of the hall.
Oh? And why did you refuse all three men who asked you to dance? The man smiled, then turned back to his book.
There were 4, and I refused them because I didn't know how to to dance very well. See, I can't do this the whole way. I'm ruining it. The conversation is very important.
You are doing wonderfully. You are doing much better than you think you're doing.
Okay, cool.
If you are really uncomfortable, I won't make you do it, but I think you're doing better than you think you are.
I mean, it's fun, but yeah, okay.
Then have fun.
Okay. There were 4. And I refused them because I don't know how to dance very well.
The man lowered his book slightly, eyeing her. You know, you're a lot less timid than you look.
Timid? I'm not the one staring at his book when there's a young lady standing by him, never having properly introduced himself.
The man raised a speculative eyebrow. Now see, you sound like my father. Far better looking, but just as grumpy. Vin glared at him. Finally, he rolled his eyes. Very well, let me be a gentleman. He bowed to her with a refined, formal step. I am Lord Elend. Lady Valette Renault, might I have the pleasure of sharing this balcony with you whilst I read? Vin folded her arms.
Elend? Family name or given name? Should I even care? He just wanted his spot back, but how did he know that I'd refuse dancing partners?
Somehow, she had a suspicion that Kelsier would want to hear about this particular conversation. Oddly, she didn't feel a desire to shrug this man away as she had the others. Instead, she felt another stab of annoyance as he again raised his book. Look, Marius, pretty boy. Not a lot to... Forget it. Joke's dead. Moving on.
Okay, but we will discuss it at the end of this because I want to explore this annoyance you have for him because as a woman, what I'm getting from this guy is different. So this is very interesting.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. Agreed.
You still haven't told me why you would rather read than participate.
She said, not in a southern accent for some reason. The man sighed, lowering the book again. Well, I'm not exactly the best dancer either.
Ah.
But that's only part of it. You may not realize this yet, but it's not that hard to get over-partied. Once you attend 500 or 600 of these balls, they start to feel a bit repetitive. Vin shrugged.
You'd probably learn to dance better if you practiced.
Elend raised an eyebrow again. You're not going to let me get back to my book, are you?
I wasn't intending to.
He sighed, tucking the book back into his jacket pocket, which was beginning to show signs of book-shaped wear. Well then, do you want to go dance instead? Vin froze. Elend smiled nonchalantly.
Lord, he's either incredibly smooth or socially incompetent.
It was disturbing that she couldn't determine which. That's a no, I assume? Elend said. Good. I thought I should offer, since we've established that I'm a gentleman. However, I doubt the couples below would appreciate us trampling their toes.
Agreed. What were you reading? What the fuck was that?
Dilisteni. Trials of Monument. Heard of it? Vin shook her head. Oh, well, not many have. He leaned over the railing, looking below. So what do you think of your first experience at court?
It's very overwhelming.
Say what you will about House Venture, they know how to throw a party.
You don't like House Venture, then?
She said perhaps this was one of the rivalries Kelsier was watching for. Not particularly, no. They're an ostentatious lot, even for high nobility. They can't just have a party, they have to throw the best party. Never mind that they run their servants ragged setting it up, then beat the poor things in retribution when the hall isn't perfectly clean the next morning. Vin cocked her head.
Not words I'd expect to hear from a nobleman.
Elend looked a little embarrassed, but, well, never mind that. I think your terraceman is looking for you. Okay, so we'll pause here for a second to say that... Okay, look, there are two aspects of Marius here. Potential revolutionary and pretty boy.
Okay.
So...
Okay, and
so yeah, those are the parallels that I saw.
So at this point, you were this increased the intrigue of like, who is this person? He's not a very typical noble person. That's interesting. And it's like, oh, what is he? Yes. So you've picked up on this potential revolutionary guy. So this, and then this coupled with the way he was dressed made us think, okay, what is he like from a sort of lower house, because it would make sense then that he would be a bit more critical of the nobility, because they have to make the best party and whatever, which obviously we get a revelation just now, and we'll talk about it then.
Vin started, glancing over the side of the balcony. Sure enough, Sazed's tall form stood by her now empty table, speaking to a serving boy. Vin yelped quietly.
"I've got to go,"
she said, turning toward the stairwell. "Oh, well then, back to reading it is." He gave her a half wave of farewell, but he had his book open before she passed the first step. Vin reached the bottom out of breath. Sazed saw her immediately.
"I'm sorry,"
she said, chagrined as she approached. "Do not apologize to me, mistress. It is both unseemly and unnecessary. Moving about a bit was a good idea, I think. I would have suggested it had you not seemed so nervous."
"Is it time for us to go then?"
"It is a proper time to withdraw, if you wish. May I ask what you were doing up there, mistress?"
"I wanted to get a better look at the windows, but I ended up talking to someone. He seemed interested in me at first, but now I don't think he ever intended to pay me much attention. Doesn't matter. He didn't seem important enough to bother Calcia with his name."
Interesting. She doesn't want to. Okay, so third aspect of Marius is, of course, the love interest element here. This is clearly the start of the romance subplot for this book, I assume.
Yes.
And so, yeah, pretty boy, revolutionary, love interest. He's not good enough for Vin. I do not like him. I do not like him.
Really? Tell us. Tell us how you really feel, Dorkus.
Who was it you were speaking to?
The man in the corner over there on the balcony.
One of Lord Venture's friends?
Is one of them named Elend?
Sazed paled visibly. You were chatting with Lord Elend Venture?
Yes.
Did he ask you to dance? Vin nodded.
But I don't think he meant it.
Oh dear. So much for controlled anonymity.
Venture? Like keep Venture?
Heir to the house title.
Vin
said, realizing that she should probably be a bit more intimidated than she felt.
He was a bit annoying. In a pleasant sort of way.
We shouldn't be discussing this here.
Now he says it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Now he says this.
Yeah. I was gonna... Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Is that a criticism or is that a nitpick?
It's a criticism. Well, no, it's a nitpick as a character. Like, yes, both of you shut the fuck up. Sorry.
Yes. But it's like, because we called it out earlier and he clearly has the self-awareness. It's fine. It's fine.
Maybe you know what? No, it's understandable that they would only notice this now. Like, Sazed would only be wary now. Like, he should have. Yes, I agree. That they should have been much more careful earlier on. Now that there's cause for concern, now he's got. It's like yes, it just enhances my feeling of duh. That's why I'm like, oh, now you did it. So you know what? I like the feeling. I like being irritated with characters, and I like feeling that. Excuse me, exactly. I like to be able to question them. Excellent. So it's not so much the writing; it's just the actual character. I'm like, yo, you should have thought of that before.
Fair. We shouldn't be discussing this here. You're far, far below his station. Come, let us retire. I shouldn't have gone away to the dinner. He trailed off, mumbling to himself as he led Vin to the entryway. She got one more glimpse into the main chamber as she retrieved her shawl, and she burned tin, squinting against the light and seeking the balcony above. He held the book closed in one hand. She could have sworn that he was looking down in her direction. She smiled and let Sazed usher her to their carriage.
Vin, such a girl.
She's such a girl.
Such a human, actually. I mean, if you're interested in someone, you want them to be interested in you. So.
Yes. Okay. So my final assessment, in all seriousness, is that this was both a masterful chapter in the character work and how much important stuff Sanderson was able to pack into such a short amount of time, but at the same time may be the worst chapter as far as my nitpicks for this chapter feel like a bit more than just nitpicks for me.
Yeah, they are the biggest criticisms we've found, I think. It's not book breaking, but
Yes.
but yeah, that just because something could have been done differently doesn't mean that's what I'm saying. It doesn't mean it's absolutely horrific. It's just we're noticing these things, and maybe if we were on reading through quicker, we wouldn't have taken the time to notice this. Maybe these are things people might notice on their second read through or third read through, but we are really taking it page by page here. So
Yes.
yeah, so like I don't know if I would have these criticisms. I think that the closest I would have on my own would be that they shouldn't be talking that way. They shouldn't be talking so openly. That I would have that I can put past myself, but the rest, no, it's probably just because I'm talking to you.
Now, I clearly made my opinion well known
What
on
opinion
the
is that?
latest character, the latest pretty boy character that has been introduced to the plot. What is your opinion, Kitteh?
Okay, so yeah, you had this I suppose immediate dislike for him. I guess it's because he wasn't described as pretty from the beginning that I didn't take any of his arrogance to be pretty boy arrogance. It's just cockiness and confidence. So he wasn't as annoying to me as you felt him.
Sure.
He was annoying and like he's hard to read, and he immediately challenges Vin because he's not just fawning over her the way the rest of the guys were doing. So that's why she's curious. So he's hooked her on that kind of thing of it's kind of where it's like he's not going to just simp over her, and that immediately it's a dating strategy that people use that you can't. It's not exactly negging that he's doing here, but he's not falling all over himself. He's being flirty,
He
but
is
also a little bit
definitely
annoying.
being flirty, and he's
Yeah.
definitely being a bit less than cultured, let's say.
Yes.
Very direct. Now, I actually think, going on what I was saying earlier about romance and acting and trying to understand what it is that you find attractive in your scene partner, what you want out of your scene partner. One of the things that Ellen says is, you're a lot less timid than you seemed. And I suspect, given that he is the heir to House Venture, he has countless women of court fawning over him, and Vin's not like the other girls. She says what she means. And I think that Ellen will find that quality about her very attractive.
So you can see what Ellen sees in her, right? So that's fine. But you're finding it very difficult to understand what the hell Vin sees in him. Or unfortunate. You understand it, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah, just because I don't like people like that. Because I don't like pretty boys doesn't mean they don't have qualities that other people would find likable.
Like I think it's easy to forgive Vin for being taken with this because she has very little experience with romance and with flirting, and she's doesn't these feelings are all new to her. She doesn't understand how all of this is working, why she's feeling certain things. She hasn't really noticed why she wants approval. She actually hasn't admitted to herself that she wants a man to find her. Like she smiles, she did check that he's looking at her. She hasn't put it into words in her own mind that, oh no, she wants him to be attentive to her.
Yeah, well, it seems like this is like the first time she's ever had these woman-like thoughts.
Exactly.
It may unironically be the very first time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I can forgive her for being taken with just this kind of asshole, I suppose. If like I don't know if I would walk away from this liking this person, but she would definitely be. I know she would be curious.
She seems smitten, in my opinion.
She just she is smitten, especially because he was so different to the others. That's what she's been taken by.
And of course, she'll find the quality of a nobleman who cares about Ska. we'll see how much he truly cares. She'll find that quality attractive. I'm confident.
I think so.
Now, we don't know if he actually is a full-on revolutionary, free the ska type, or if he's just like, hey, maybe we should just treat them a bit nicer.
Yeah, we'll learn more about him. But I'm also like, this is a great thing to consider, because she's smiling and thinking about this person. It's like, if he died, Vin, you were talking about noble people dying, noblemen dying.
Yes.
What would happen is he's one of them, Vin. So this is a whole new avenue that she does not really think about. She doesn't realize that in the beginning of this night, she was talking about, noblemen dying, and now she wants the attention of a nobleman.
Yep. She has not humanized them before now, and now she will.
Yeah.
Which is a potentially dangerous thing. And it might even be a thing that Kelsier had overlooked in deciding to have her be the spy.
She should be vulnerable to it.
Deep down, I think Vin is a good person who wants sunshine and rainbows for the world. Also, one of my favorite lines of this chapter was, Lord, I can't tell if he's really smooth or just totally awkward.
I love that one. You're socially incompetent. Oh my God. Yeah. Was it awkward in your book or in socially incompetent?
Oh gosh, let me go back.
Because I love that one. That wording. In the audiobook, it's also socially incompetent.
Lord, he's either incredibly smooth or socially incompetent. It was disturbing that she couldn't determine which. That was very cleverly written. Well done, Mr. Sanderson.
Yeah, the fact that she can't determine which, that is what keeps her curious. And she wants him to continue to be around her, because she wants to figure him out. And it's like, she wants to figure out why he's now not paying attention to her. Why is he reading the book? That whole strategy. But then she gets this little win at the end, because it's like, he was paying attention to me. So very girly things occurring for Vin. But also in terms of him being an adventure, that doesn't seem to have settled yet properly with her. I want to ask, I know it crossed my mind, because I'm paranoid now, because I have Vin in my head. Okay. Was she being alimentically tampered with?
If she had kept her copper running, that would be impossible, right?
But she doesn't.
She didn't say she. Yeah, she doesn't say that she undoes the copper, so I would assume she left it on, so no. I think she is young. I think it's her first time experiencing the hormones and the attractive pretty boy. So I think it's somewhat organic.
She doesn't, again though, I don't think she has noticed him as being attractive. She doesn't seem to realize whether people are attractive or not. So
how did they describe how he looks?
It was all about the way his clothing looked. His clothing was
his suit wasn't the finest she had seen, nor was his vest as bright as most. Well, I think that Vin would find that to be an attractive quality.
Yes, that's an attractive. Yeah,
she's not someone who's going to be attracted to a
the height. Yeah, the
height and the ostentatiousness. Yes. I think she would prefer a down-to-earth personality, which Ellen seems to be. Both coat and shirt seemed to fit loosely, and his hair was a bit disheveled. So I hear disheveled, and I think of that as stylishly disheveled. You know what I mean? Like it's like I put a lot of effort into making it look like I don't care about my hair. Kind of messy.
Yeah.
So
no,
he's got the book.
Yeah. That's it. There's not much about him. She hasn't actually taken notice too much about the way that he looks, in terms of, she hasn't noted this man is attractive. She's just been attracted to him. That's it. She hasn't actually realized that she's attracted to him. So what I'm saying is, we're probably going to get more of the way he looks and her noticing it going forward. That's what I'm expecting. She's just taken up by him at this point. She hasn't gone, oh, he's beautiful or whatever. She doesn't even realize that she's attracted to him. I'm not saying he's not a pretty boy. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that she hasn't realized he's a pretty boy in this way yet. I just feel like, Yeah, I don't know. I think you jumped to the pretty boy thing because of the disheveled and his attitude.
And I'm a guy and I have my biases.
Yeah, you're like, oh, that's definitely what he would look like if this is how she's acting. It makes sense.
It'll be interesting if it'll be interesting if Kelsier wants her to pursue the romanticism of it for the sake of using him. It'll be interesting if she feels conflicted about it. It'll be interesting if Elend talks more about his revolutionary ideals, and if Vin wants to bring into the heist, which could cause tension.
No, I don't think that. Yeah, I mean, it is a very interesting addition. This is it's not just, oh, here's the romance, whatever. It's like he's got revolutionary tendencies. So this brings a lot more into consideration than just, oh, here's a guy.
It's we're almost halfway through the book. It's hard to imagine how he'll be able to fit all of that in along with everything else that already has to be answered for. And I have to keep in mind that this is a trilogy, but I also do know that Brandon Sanderson has said that he tries to wrap each book up on its own. So like you could get away with just reading one. So I'm really curious to see how tight this is and how efficient he is over the rest
what he does with this narrative. Yes, interesting. But going a little bit back on Vin, what I was trying to also explain about Vin seemingly not noticing that he's attractive, it's Vin also doesn't even know what she finds attractive in guys because she's never been concerned with that. So what I'm interested in this journey with her, with this love interest, is her actually experiencing, oh wait, this is actually kind of like the kind of guy that I like looking at. She doesn't realize she hasn't discovered any of that yet, even though it's there. It's underlying. She knows, she knows people feel attracted to other people. It's a thing, but she hasn't had this sort of awakening thing. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is her actually realizing what it's like to be attracted to someone, because she hasn't been before. Oh yeah.
Gotcha.
Yay, Vin.
Yay, Vin.
But yeah, I guess now I'm gonna go forward not really liking Elend.
Oh, please don't dislike him, because I
mean, he annoyed me.
Dislike him.
And I did think Vin was just taken with him. So I didn't like him particularly, but I didn't hate him particularly either.
Okay. Well, just as long as you don't let me influence you too much.
I will consider what he is doing as it goes forward. I'll have you in mind, though, and your assessment in mind. Yeah.
Okay, is there anything else to discuss, Kitteh?
No, nothing that I can think of other than woohoo! That was the ball. So we had a very long chapter.
Our first ball, our first Luthadel ball.
Oh my God, she has to go to how many? 2 or 3 a week? Ugh.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh, to be young again. Well, this was a long chapter, which makes for a longer episode. And
we need to introduce the term chapter. What did I say earlier?
Oh, yes, a chapisode.
Chapisode. What's a chapisode? Yeah.
Kitty coined the term chapisode, and it is fantastic, and we should start using it from now on.
Yes. I don't know if it'll stick. We'll see. But the point is, my brain was trying to say episode and chapter at the same time. So chapisode it is. Thank you for tuning into this chapisode. If you have not yet done so, why have you not subscribed to the No One Asked You podcast? There are other things going on this channel. This is not just me and Dorcas. This is Dorcas's channel. What is happening on your channel, Dorcas?
Well, I've got Cicero's On Duties number 3 loading in parts on Wednesday mornings, and I tentatively have scheduled an interview set a couple weeks out with an app developer that I'm excited to work on. Lots of fun things. But if you have not subscribed to ThatDarnKitteh yet, highly recommend you do so. We talked about this halfway through this episode, but she's got a wonderful panel show on Thursdays, where we talk about current events and philosophical topics with a panel of really wonderful thinkers. And on Tuesdays, but sometimes Wednesdays, Kitteh does Meowster Hunter streams or debate diagrams.
Whichever I fancy at the time. But yes,
Indeed.
Like this video, boys and girls. And thank you.
Thank you. See you next week. Bye.